Welcome, everyone. Welcome to what you can think of as your very first lecture in Mandarin 101. Now, over the next few minutes, we're going to dive into the core fundamentals of Mandarin Chinese. We're going to build that essential foundation you need to really start speaking and understanding this incredible language. Our goal today isn't just about memorizing words. No, it's about a deep dive into the logic, the structure of how Mandarin actually works. You'll find that this foundational understanding is what really separates the learners who succeed from those who get stuck. So before we get into all the nuts and bolts, let's start with a really big question. What is the single most important secret to speaking Mandarin well? Now, it's not what a lot of beginners think it is. It's not about memorizing thousands of characters right away or having a perfect accent on day one. The real answer is something far more fundamental. It's an element that actually controls the meaning of every single syllable you'll ever say. And by the end of our time together today, you're not only going to know what it is, you'll know exactly how to use it. All right, so here's our roadmap for today's lecture. First, we're going to start with pinyin. Think of it as our key to unlocking pronunciation. From there, we'll get into the most critical concept in all of spoken Mandarin, the four tones. Once we have those two tools, we're going to put them to work and learn some basic greetings, your first real step into a conversation. And finally, we'll wrap up with some essential classroom phrases so you can put your new skills to use right away. You'll see how each of these steps builds perfectly on the last one. Okay, our first stop is Hanyu Pinyin, or as everyone just calls it, Pinyin. Now, this system, which was officially adopted way back in 1958, was totally revolutionary for language education. Its main job is to act as a kind of phonetic bridge. It lets us use the familiar Roman alphabet, the letters we already know, to accurately spell out the sounds of Mandarin. This is huge because it lets us separate the task of learning pronunciation from the much more complex task of memorizing characters. It's so important that you get this distinction right from the start. Pinyin is not a translation system, it's a transcription system. Think of it like a phonetic map. When you see a pinyin word like how, the letters aren't meant to be read like they're English. No. Instead, they give you a very precise set of instructions for what to do with your tongue, your lips, and your breath. It's a brilliant system that lets a new learner, like you, focus completely on mastering the sounds of the language first. You get to build a solid speaking foundation long before you ever have to worry about the beautiful art of Chinese character. Okay, now let's build on pinyin with our second core concept. You see, if pinyin tells you what sound to make, the tones tell you how to shape that sound. Mandarin is what we call a tonal language. This means the pitch, the contour, you might even think of it as the melody of a syllable, isn't just there for emotion or emphasis, it's an inseparable part of that word's definition. The exact same sound, pronounced with a different melody, becomes a completely different word. Now, this is usually the biggest hurdle for native English speakers, but it's one we're going to systematically get over today. To really get why tones are so important, just consider the pinyin syllable ma. Now, depending on the tonal contour you put on it, this one sound can mean mother, hemp, horse, or to scold. And I want to be clear, this isn't like when we raise our voice in English to ask a question. This is a fundamental piece of the word's identity. Getting the tone wrong isn't like having a bit of an accent. It's the exact same thing as saying ship when you really meant to say sheep. The sound is close, but the meaning is completely different. So, this table here lays out the whole system for us. I'm going to pronounce each tone, and I really want you to listen closely to the pitch of my voice. Let's start. The first tone is high and level. There's no change at all. It's like holding a single musical note. Listen. Ma, ma. That means mother. Now, the second tone is a rising tone. It starts in the middle and goes up, kind of like you're asking a question. Listen. Ma, ma. That means hemp. Okay, the third tone. This one's the trickiest for beginners. It's a falling, rising tone. It dips down and then comes back up, like a scoop in your voice. Listen carefully. Ma, ma, that's horse. And finally, the fourth tone. It's a sharp, falling sound. It starts high and drops fast, like you're giving a command. Listen, ma, ma. That means to scold. Now let's hear them all in a row. Listen to the distinct shape of each one. Ma, 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 ma. Same sound, four totally different words. Just let this number sink in for a minute. 90%. Tones are not some optional advanced feature of Mandarin. They are the absolute foundation. They are the core of the spoken language. To ignore them is, quite literally, to make yourself impossible to understand. And that analogy there, comparing it to vowels in English, that's not an exaggeration. Imagine trying to speak English without making a difference between the sounds A, E, I, O, and U. That's exactly what speaking Mandarin without the correct tones sounds like to a native speaker. It's just a string of sounds with no clear meaning.
Excellent work. Now that we've set up the theory behind pinyin and tones, let's get practical. We're going to combine these two ideas to learn the single most common greeting in the entire Chinese-speaking world.
Okay, look at this phrase, ni hao. It perfectly shows how these concepts work together. Let's break it down. The first character, ni, means you. You can see the pinyin has that little third tone mark. The second character, hao, means good, and it also has a third tone mark. So literally, hello in Chinese is just saying you good. But this is where we learn our first crucial rule of spoken Mandarin, something called tone sanji. For the language to flow better, when you have two third tones in a row, the first third tone automatically changes and is pronounced like a rising second tone. So even though it's written it ni hao, it's always pronounced ni hao. Listen to that again, ni hao. This is our first peek into how tones aren't just static rules. They interact with each other in natural speech.
All right, let's all try to say this together. Now remember that tone sanji rule we just talked about? The first syllable rises and the second one does that dip and rise. Listen to me first. Ni hao. Okay, now you try it. Ni hao. Excellent. See, this one little phrase is a perfect summary of our whole lesson. Pinyin gives you the sound, and the tones give you the meaning and that natural linguistic flow.
Fantastic. Now that you can greet basically anyone, let's give you a few more phrases that are absolutely essential for any learning environment, whether it's right here in this lecture or any other class you take. First up, to greet your teacher, you just take the word for teacher, which is lao shi, and add that how we just learned. So you get lao shi hao. Easy enough, right? Next, to say thank you, 谢谢. Now let's really focus on this pronunciation because it's a super common mistake. That pinyin initial X sound doesn't exist in English. It's not sh. To make this sound, the tip of your tongue should be down, touching the back of your bottom teeth, and the middle part of your tongue rises up. It's a high, thin sound. Listen, 谢. And both syllables are that sharp falling fourth tone, 谢谢. Then, the standard way to respond to thank you is 不客气, which means you're welcome, or more literally, don't be so polite. And look, here's another tone sandy rule. The character bu is normally a fourth tone, but when it comes right before another fourth tone, like in 客气, it changes to a rising second tone, 不客气. These little changes are what make Mandarin sound so natural and fluent. All right, we have covered a significant amount of really foundational material today. So let's just take a moment to pause, review, and really nail down the key takeaways from our first lesson together. So the single most important thing to walk away with today is that these concepts are all linked together. You can't have one without the other. Think of pinyin as the alphabet of sounds, and tones as the grammar of melody. They need each other to work. And your first greeting, ni hao, is the perfect proof of that. These aren't just separate facts to memorize, they are the fundamental building blocks for your entire journey in learning Mandarin. Mastering this foundation is what's going to make everything else possible. So, I'll leave you with this thought. You now have the fundamental keys to unlocking spoken Mandarin. You have pinyin to guide your pronunciation, and you understand the absolutely critical role of tones, that music that creates all the meaning. These building blocks are now yours. The only question left is, what are you going to build with them?